They blamed her for everything, every disagreement, every misunderstanding, every uncomfortable truth. Whenever something went wrong, the answer was always the same. It's probably her fault. At first, she tried to defend herself. She explained. She apologized for things she didn't even do. She tried harder. She stayed quieter. She made herself smaller just so everyone else could feel bigger. But no matter what she did, it was never enough. Because when people decide you are the problem, they stop looking for the real one. Her name was Alina, and for years, she carried a weight that never belonged to her. In her family, she was known as the difficult one, not because she screamed, not because she caused chaos, but because she noticed things. She noticed when people were unfair. She noticed when someone was lying. She noticed when something felt wrong. And when she spoke about it, they called her dramatic. When she tried to set boundaries, they called her disrespectful. When she stayed quiet, they said she was cold. It felt like living inside a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided, guilty. No matter what she said, no matter what she did. At family gatherings, the jokes were always directed at her. You're too sensitive. You always make things complicated. You overthink everything. People laughed. But she didn't. Because deep down, those words stayed with her long after the laughter ended. There were nights when she sat alone in her room wondering something painful. What if they're right? What if I really am the problem? That question slowly began to live inside her mind. And the worst part about being blamed for everything is that eventually, you start blaming yourself too. So she tried to fix herself. She read books about communication. She watched videos about emotional intelligence. She learned how to stay calm during arguments. She did everything she could to become someone easier to love. But something strange kept happening. The more she improved herself, the more they criticized her. If she stayed quiet during an argument, they said she was being passive-aggressive. If she spoke calmly, they said she was being manipulative. If she left the room to avoid conflict, they said she was running away. It didn't matter what she did. The story about her had already been written in their minds, and she was always the villain. One evening, after another exhausting argument, she sat alone in the kitchen long after everyone had gone to sleep. The house was quiet, but her mind was loud. She replayed every conversation, every accusation, every moment someone told her she was the reason things were falling apart. Then she asked herself a question that changed everything. What if I'm not the problem? At first, the thought felt almost illegal, like something she wasn't allowed to believe. But the more she thought about it, the more things started making sense. She realized something painful. Every time she tried to speak about her feelings, they dismissed her. Every time she tried to solve problems, they mocked her. Every time she asked for respect, they called her selfish. It wasn't that she was the problem. It was that she was the easiest person to blame, because she cared. And people who care deeply often become the emotional shock absorbers for everyone else's chaos. But one day, even the strongest shock absorber breaks. The breaking point came quietly. There was no dramatic fight, no screaming, no doors slammed. Just another moment where someone pointed a finger at her for something she didn't do. And everyone else agreed. Something inside her finally became still. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She didn't defend herself. She simply realized something. Nothing she said would change their minds. Because some people need you to be the problem. It keeps them from facing their own reflection. That night, she made a decision. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. She was leaving. Not to punish them. Not to prove a point. But to protect the last piece of peace she had left inside her. She didn't make a big announcement. She didn't try to convince anyone. She simply started preparing quietly. Over the next few weeks, she organized her life piece by piece. She saved money. She found a small place to stay. She packed the things that mattered most. And one morning, before anyone else woke up, she left. No long goodbye, no dramatic speech, just a short note on the table. I hope one day you understand. And then she walked out the door. At first, no one took it seriously. They assumed she was being dramatic again. She'll be back. She always comes back. Days passed, then weeks, then months, and something strange began happening inside the house she once lived in. The peace they thought would come after she left never arrived. Instead, everything became louder. Arguments that used to be directed at her began appearing between other people. Small misunderstandings grew into big conflicts. The tension that was once blamed on her was still there. But now, there was no one left to carry it. People started noticing things they had ignored before. Without her quietly helping behind the scenes, responsibilities became heavier. Without her calming arguments, conflicts escalated. Without her emotional support, the house felt emptier. One day during a heated family argument, someone said something that changed the room forever. You know, things were never this bad when she was here. The room went silent. For the first time, someone had said it out loud. Another voice added quietly, "She used to fix things before they got this bad." And suddenly, memories started surfacing. Moments they had overlooked. Times when she helped solve problems. Times when she protected people from conflict. Times when she listened when no one else would. They began realizing something uncomfortable. The person they blamed for all the chaos was actually the one holding everything together. But by the time they understood that truth, she had already built a different life. Months after leaving, Alina was sitting in a small apartment across town. It wasn't fancy, but it was peaceful. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel heavy. It felt healing. She had started rebuilding her life slowly. New routines, new friendships, new boundaries. And something else had changed too. The voice inside her mind that once asked, "What's wrong with me?" had finally grown quiet. Because distance has a powerful way of revealing the truth. When she stepped away from constant blame, she could finally see herself clearly. And the person she saw was not the problem. She was someone who had been trying too hard to fix environments that never wanted to change. One afternoon, she received a message from someone back home. It was simple: "We miss you." For a long moment, she stared at the screen. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with understanding. Sometimes people only recognize your value after they experience your absence. But she also understood something important. Healing doesn't mean going back to the place that broke you. It means learning how to protect the peace you fought so hard to find. So, she replied kindly. But she didn't rush back, because the day they realized she was never the problem was the same day she realized she deserved a life where she didn't have to prove her worth every single day. And somewhere far from the noise that once blamed her for everything, she finally understood something powerful. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is quietly walk away and let the truth reveal itself after they're gone.